upside down, cleaned Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer. Now let's get it back up on that workbench there, primed inside that crankcase. Got that crankcase there cleaned, very good. Got it coated with that Rust-Oleum primer. And we'll let that sit there and dry till tomorrow, and then we'll get on to something else. That rusty metal primer inside that crankcase right yonder has already got dry. Up in yonder, that's already got dry. It's time to move on to that side cover. Right there it is. Just maybe a little conversation, bring you up to date to what we've got, what we're dealing with. And I just pressed this gear out of this side cover here. Been cleaning on it for just a little bit, but as you can see, it's quite rusty. The whole length of it right there. And if you was here on site in a shadow, I can see that from here out where the cam would have been is no wear, and from here in the housing part is worn a good amount, enough to where it's visible. That's a replaceable part, that shaft is. The reason that I'm not going to use it is the bottom, where that was in the bottom of the crankcase there that we looked at before. Once you get it out here in hand, there's about right down here, that would have been the bottom, how bad that was, and like there's three or four teeth right there that are rusted, oh, maybe a quarter of the way in. They're not worn out. They're really flat on top. But I'm not going to use this. Just wanted that for a show and tell, because I have another replacement gear that is probably the best one that I have ever owned that I have had out of an engine. There's just no wear whatsoever. You put the micrometer on it, it's the same size from one end to the other one, and the gear shows it. You cannot tell that this gear has been in an engine. Now I did clean it up, and I did. It does have a coat of paint on it. No paint on the wiring surfaces. I done already cleaned that. I cleaned that hole out in there where that goes with the wire brush, scrapers, all the appropriate tools. Cleaned up the back right there just a little bit. Not enough. But you put this in here. When you put this gear in here, there is no, I say no wear. There is very little play in that housing right here. Now, if they was just kind of explain this to you, and sometime in the future I've got several that I'm going to do to ream this out and press a bushing in there and then turn it back to the size of the shaft. Now we'll do that not in this time, because this one does not need to be fixed. But I have been cleaning it up. These good up here, and let's just kind of try to jump ahead really quick here. More talking than anything. And you know, as I worked on this engine, and if you remember how bad that crankshaft was, and how good the water hopper was, and some of the other parts on the engine, and to how much rust was inside that crankcase, as found, these grease cups, the tops were missing. So I kind of, in just thinking out loud, I guess, I think that those acted as a little water funnel, and water got in there and went into the crankcase. I don't think it was anything wrong with the engine. I just think that water got into the crankcase and rusted over a period of time. because of the way the rust was. And these here we'll clean them up, and the backside here will be cleaned really good, and a primer coat put there. The greasers they'll be set right with some correct greasers. This one will be cleaned up on the other side. We'll get to that later. One of the things that this was the retard and advance lever that was on this engine that had been broken off, and this arm brazed on here, and it had no prowl in there with the spring thing to lock it in a position for starting and running. So and I was, we replaced that, and I do have one. I had some parts laid aside for just such a project as this, and this was one of the parts, and it does have some, maybe this part has maybe 50-60% original paint left on it, and so it will be put into use here with the spring and the little indent thing, so that'll be set right. Also, that spacer collar there that takes the place of where the gear would have went for the that there gear reduction gear that went on the back of the engine, an accessory. This here goes on that crankshaft to take up that space for that gear, and this one is quite rusty. So, and I do have one here that's probably got 60% paint left on it, a really nice one. So this one will be put into use in that part. Also, and this, these parts here will move on to get cleaned up and primered and for a repaint. This is that governor collar fork. Rusted, just no paint on it whatsoever. This was the one that came with the engine, and I do have one that's got like, and I'm not sure that this is not a new old stock part, because it shows no indication of ever having to rode against that collar there. There's just no contact wear at all on those little rounding surface. But anyway, it's 90% original paint. So we will use this one. I think the cam, I think we'll clean that up and just put it back into service, because I don't have one that has any original paint on it. So we'll probably reuse that. As with the let's get past this over here. The engine block is one piece. That's only one piece, and that's usually the way I like to reassemble an engine, is piece by piece by piece. And then this side cover right here, for instance, it has two alignment dowel pins that are in this housing. This one down here also aligns the fuel pump. They're different lengths. I'm not going to take them out of this particular one, so it will not be 100% disassembled. A couple of parts will be left in there. And this shaft here is replaceable. That's a replaceable, and it's just braided in the backside right here. You can take them out, make a new one, and then replace this shaft. Is it worn too bad? On the backside right here, quite a bit of rust there. A lot of rust. I mean, some really rust. Once you get started scraping on this, actually underneath it there is some pitting. I'll admit to it, there's some pitting there, but it seems to want to clean up pretty good. So what I'll do is scrape all of this away, and then take a abrasive wheel and clean this down to bare metal, and then primer this and reassemble it all back together, and then put it onto the engine. And I probably won't do that part by part, because I've done it in another video, and if you just check backwards in the videos, you can find that information. The piston, this is the piston that came out of the engine, and it's rusted really bad. It can be cleaned up, and it will be cleaned up and put back into service. It's just rust. It looks like a carbon, and I don't think there was any water that got into the front of into the valve part of the head in that part. I think that was all sealed up. This one right here, it's had a little side play in the rings right here, and that's more important if you kind of check with the automotive books. The side play of the ring this way, the side play that way, is more important than the diameter wire. So this one right here does have, I'm going to say it's like 5/1000ths. It's very little, very little. Perfectly good piston to use once it's cleaned up. The rings did come off, and they are usable, and I will clean this in the electrolysis. That'll be a good piston for later, because the reasoning is I had another piston laid aside, a good rod that I had already cleaned in the past and painted and put together and everything, and the wrist pin in it is really, there's just hardly no side play at all in this. It's really good, really good. This one over there, that wrist pin over there would probably have to be replaced in that piston. And this one, the reason that I picked this one out to use is it has virtually no side play on the rings. It's just hardly nowhere whatsoever there. You know, maybe like a couple of thousandths, or so. I mean, it's a really good piston. And I got new rings already put on there. It's cleaned, it's good to go. So I will put that into the engine. That's the one we're going to use.